Get ready for an uplifting experience with Coached Soul. Join us as we bring you the dynamic duo of Steve Hudgens, a licensed professional counselor, and Kenya Evelyn, a transformational leadership coach. Together, they'll guide you through engaging episodes filled with valuable insights and actionable tips on mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Coached Soul is your go-to podcast for empowering discussions that will help you thrive. So let's get started and welcome our hosts, Steve and Kenya.
Right, welcome to Coach Soul. You know, Kenya, it is just Christmas in July for us because, how do we start off with weather? I don't know. But when you have 80-degree weather, when it's about 100 degrees in July, I will take Christmas in July anytime. Because it's
Well,
just,
my daughter does ice skating, so I have the privilege of being on the ice.
yes,
And it's nothing is more fabulous than being in the ice rink in July.
gives a whole new meaning to
It's a
frozen.
whole new meaning. It's so good. But listen, before we go address each other into what we're talking today, I just wanna say to our listeners, have you noticed the change? We have a different logo, we have a different vibe. Tell us, listeners, about our change and where are we going with the vision of this podcast, Steve? I'm so excited. Tell me more.
You know, it is fascinating when I come up with Coach Soul. I was trying to think of what do you do? Well, we're coaching souls.
That's
You and
right.
I have been coached. We've been brought through some healing. And so when I developed the logo, Coach Soul, I love how the podcast is a plug and it plugs into the soul. So we
Mm,
like to tap in, plug in to our listeners where you can be able to be challenged.
that's right.
We want to be able
Loved.
to bring a message of love, acceptance, being able to learn how to remove life splinters, if you would say, to be able to understand how to be able to heal. And I think sometimes our language gets misconstrued
Mm,
in how we
correct.
develop logos or how do we just
Mm.
say one another. It's easy for me to say, Ohio gozaimasu, Kenya. You have no
What
clue
is
what
that?
I'm saying, right? And
Oh,
and that's
goodness.
Japanese for good morning because I
Oh,
I I lived in Japan, and so
correct.
I don't think it's about that type of language that we're talking about because
No.
you have
I have
Portuguese,
a few languages myself. Bom
right?
dia, buenos dias, guten morning, and yeah, all the things, right? Yes. So I wanted to bring the awareness that we are so committed to you listeners. We're committed to bettering, clearing our communication and expanding our reach and make it easier for you to look at the logo and see. You see the female and the masculine, the two voices, you see that we are in this together in every area of your relationship and every layer of your body, mind, body, and soul. And we are here to support you in your journey, to work together. We're welcome questions. We are on YouTube. We welcome your questions. We have a page on Facebook, on Instagram. Just Google us. We're everywhere. Go to our website. We would love to hear how is this podcast supporting you, and what topics would you like to see us discussing to support you in your journey, right? Today, as Steve just shared, we were going to go a little deeper into language. Language, not just Japanese, Portuguese, Spanish, communication. Come on now, Steve.
Well, I mean, it even goes a little further because it's the language that we speak to ourselves.
Which is
I
communication, yes.
Right. And I think when I think about speaking, I hear all the time, well, I got a friend in the hospital. What do I need to say? I got a friend who is
Mm.
dying. What do I need to say? And I'm like, sometimes silence is better than words. It's a comfort of holding someone's hand to let them know the presence is there. But the language, when we think about how do we speak to others or to ourselves, I believe that it does start within ourselves. How do we
100%.
speak to ourselves? And it's important. When you
Yeah.
think about the faith base that we're putting into Coach Soul, that it's important to understand the language that says that we're more than just the sum of the good and the bad. It's
100%.
how do we bring this language out so that we can believe in our unbelief, so to speak?
Yes. So I want to bring to our attention here. We all love music. Maybe we don't love the same genre, but we all, humans
Mhm.
and animals, tend to absolutely love music. I want you to envision, beloved listeners, I want you to envision a music that has no stop. What makes some music something beautiful is the pause.
Mm.
What creates tension and release is the stops, is the pause, is that what makes the music land in your body is the pause. So when Steve says, somebody has you're going through a tough time, it's like, well, I have nothing to say. Oh man, even if you can be there in presence and you say, I'm sending you loving prayers, I'm covering you with light. I see this person heal. Like, you send your best wishes, you make yourself present. That is the pause. Not knowing what to say, but being present in person or in energy, which is in prayers. So communication is really how, in my opinion, is how you choose to show up in the world, in love or in ego. In love or in ego, right? A new thing that I start doing in my own house, and I'm saying this because if it resonates, please borrow. I talk to the kids like this. Um, let's say we're in a discussion about something, right? I want to go to so and so's house because da 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 da. I would say, babe, I don't need to win this. You can have your justifications for yourself. It's fine. Like, I'm not to win. I'm just telling you today's not a good day. I know you arranged with your friend, but does the friend's mama know? Let me text her. Let me see if this is okay. The point is, if you are in any kind of argument, listening to respond so you win it is a love or ego.
Mm.
Is a love or ego. Because humans, we all like feeling, I know I do, feeling like you did the right thing. Good job. You showed up big. You you conquered. You're successful. Whatever your language is to feel good about your achievements. And let's just strip it down, the achievements of doing, and remember that we are human beings.
A lot of times when I think about words, they carry a lot of weight. And if you go into the Hebrew language, it can't be translated. It has such a way of that names mean meaning. Like Steve means crown of life. When you look at how much weight does the words carry, it's how do we learn how to carry the weight back into how do we see ourselves? How do we love ourselves? How do we accept other people? And being able to understand the language that's there behind it.
Beautiful.
The thing about what I look at, when I'm working with couples, it's understanding, it's not communication. They communicate, they got married. They communicate, but they're communicating from childhood hurt wounds. But what we fail to see is that there's fear within the relationship. And often fear stops us from communicating effectively. So, what is the fear of the frequency tend to do to us, Kenyon, when we talk about frequency? Words carry frequency.
Of course.
So when we think about these words, how does that affect us and our frequency to ourselves?
Well, first of all, I want to decode two things you just said.
Sure.
One is the frequency of the words itself. I love you. I hate you. Right? We talk several podcasts ago. I don't even remember. You can look in your Google search, the Japanese doctor that shared the frequency of water with words and how the crystal changed. So the word itself has different carries, different vibration, different memories, different frequencies. Here's another layer of that. If you grow up with a mama saying, you're so messy, you're so messy, you're so messy, when you hear the word messy and you're 30, 40, 50 years old, it does not feel like, oh yeah, I better clean up. It feels like a punch gut, like, because carries so much charge of memories that you probably haven't processed altogether because it was years of being saying the same thing.
Right.
And the majority of people that suffer from perfectionism have perfectionist parents, which by itself is impossible to be pleased. Therefore, in their body, it feels like in order to be happy, I need to da 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 da. You have a laundry list that will absolutely stop you from being in this moment because all those words are coded in your body, in your soul, like shields that does not let you live a relaxed, free, loved life. Even if you believe in all layers of God, because your parents' reflection of God growing up became your reflection of God, which means subconsciously you still believe, you probably, I don't want to assume, but you probably believe that you still need to be good enough for God.
No,
In a
I mean you're
subconscious
you're
level.
you're spot on. I mean, I remember growing up that if I did this, I'm going to hell. If I do this, I'm going to hell. And I just imagined God was a negative God that was going to punish me for anything and everything.
Correct.
And it took my aunt that just helped me to realize that there's nothing that I can do to save myself.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's a different type of language she was speaking to help understand that I'm lovable,
Correct.
that I can love myself, that God's grace covers me and provides that level of love language that's there.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a while to get out of the environment to be able to make the changes that I needed for myself, to be able to believe in the language that's there. And so sometimes I think that one apple can ruin a whole barrel of apples. So
Yeah.
where do you put yourself? I think is a different context of
So
belief.
I have many layers to answer this question, and I
Sure.
don't believe I can do all of this in this podcast because it's a work of frequencies. It's actually the work that I have honed in that
Okay.
that bypass the mind. It's a work in a cellular level of frequency and DNA. That's what I do when I host my retreats. That's what I do with my mastermind. Because if you spend a lifetime being coded some way, one session will give you even this podcast right here. Hearing this podcast will open up something beautiful for you that will put you in the step of healing, right? Which that is my intention. That it opens up for you and you see yourself like, oh, wow, maybe this is why I keep attracting somebody like this. Maybe this is why I feel like it doesn't matter what I do, I ended up in the same spot. It doesn't matter how much money I receive. My account is always $100. Yesterday was 10 grand. How come just like on a frequency level? It's your field can only hold this much right here, this much love, this much kindness, this much, because abuse or some kind of negative frequency has been what your field is used to. That's why you keep magnetizing, right? And by no means I'm sitting you saying you're a victim, because I don't believe that at all. But I
Right.
am saying that in the moment that you're ready to see yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I am a child of God and I'm here for an abundant life.
Right.
So I am going to surrender the how, because the how is always cyclic, it's always evolving. But I'm going to believe in guidance, and I'm going to get myself into a container, into a workshop, into a healing space. I'm going to take some proactive steps. But the number one proactive step is to see you as deserving.
Kenya, I was thinking, we get so accustomed to our own language growing up
Yeah.
that this is all we know. And, it's funny because growing up in the 80s, I'm thinking, we hear the word, oh, that's bad. When it's like, that's radical, right? And so our language
Right.
is totally evolving.
Ish, can I just please interrupt you there because I just got triggered? If you ever sing a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old talking right now, where our language is not evolving, and every mother here will say, I got you, girl. It's like they can't speak full sentence, but I know what you mean. We're gonna pray for this generation to actually use words. No bra, no what's none of that, But carry on, Steve.
Well, I was just thinking, we get so accustomed to the language around us. What are some ways that we can push ourselves to go beyond our own vocabulary, to rise above where we've been, to look at that I am important, but not such a way that I step on other people either? It's learning self care love and being okay with self care love, because when I take care of me,
Mhm.
meaning not in such a way that's a detriment to anybody else, but when I look at, do I love myself? Can I work through the trauma that I had?
Yeah,
When I do that, it builds such a confidence that my language changes within me, because it creates a brighter future.
correct.
That when you and I connect, we have such a dynamic of words and language that you and I can speak. And so it's, how do we get this dynamic? Coach Soul is a platform dynamic of helping other people to understand that you can rise above the language that you've been in and find something that rejuvenates,
Correct.
recreates.
I'll give you two. I'll give you a couple of tools. The number one tool is to decide that the triggers of the words will no longer have you,
Mm,
will not own me. And if you say, "Oh, can I don't understand. I'm fine with every word." Really? Okay. Keep yourself a journal. If you don't have a journal, just go to your notes on cell phone. And every time you hear something that feels like a gut, or that feels like a trigger, that doesn't feel kind, there's a reason why it doesn't feel kind. Like for me, the word stupid, it's like it's like glass in my ears, like
mm, mm-hmm.
like mm. And right now it's slang for our 12, 13-year-old generation. They don't feel anything. It's like a slang. It's like saying, dude.
Right.
I was like, no, please, no. Right. Um, Notice that, and so make a list of the words that puts you down, that has a low vibration, that has a personal low vibration. This is the key word: personal low vibration.
Can you
Right, because
let's
it's gonna be cyclic for everyone. And may I just finish this? And the second thing is, you gotta put yourself in an environment that will nurture you. Like Steve, you and I both are working with this amazing woman, and she's helping us to see our essence in our message,
right.
right? What happened after we start working with her, after you start working with her? like a bunch of things start opening up. So you put
Right.
yourself in a different environment and a
Like
different
Drano.
light, like right now. So your environment could be a new friend. Your environment could be joining my mastermind. Your environment could be a different church circle, a women's circle, a father circle, something that is pulling you. But trust me, if you could do it by yourself, you would have done it already. We
But
need
in
community. We need
well, in
community.
what I was trying to do earlier was try to draw out this a little bit more, because it's easier for us to say, get yourself in an environment. But it's like goes much deeper than that. I mean, sometimes I hear my clients say, well, I was just stupid. Okay, were you really stupid, or did you come to some such knowledge that reveals that at the time you were dealing with, that's the knowledge you dealt with? It doesn't mean that you're stupid. You gain some knowledge from then that
Yes.
makes you feel that way, but you're not stupid.
I will go deeper.
Yeah,
Steve, if any of my clients use that language, I will stop them and say, who called you that?
right.
I don't think they're noticing that that's what they're doing. They're putting themselves down. They're disempowering because they don't feel somehow capable. And we're creating the image of God. We're all capable. We're all there. And life is cyclic. This is why, again, we need each other. It by no means, okay, community of Coach So, listen to my heart, not just my words. It has taken me years to find a community. I have been
Mhm.
in and out of community, but the search never stopped until I decided that I was the one to lead a community. Do you see the difference? I have been in and out of different churches. No, 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 no. I have been in and out of different mentors, in and out of different coaches. And I'm not saying none of them were bad, but it has to be an energetic match for where you are at. So you feel safe to heal, to thrive, to experiment.
But it's a mental gym that we need to exercise our thoughts and our viewpoints. And sometimes some people say, well, that's difficult. Well, we just stopped ourselves when we said that seems difficult. How do we know it's difficult? Have we even tried? And if we tried, then we wouldn't be saying it was difficult. So a lot of times it's how we view or how we see things, I think, gets in the way of doing. I'm trying to think of how do we build our faith, and sometimes it's stepping and trusting, and it's believing in yourself that you can do. A lot of times that you can't do stems from, and I want to clarify this too, because oftentimes we say, oh, therapy goes back to your childhood. I disagree, because you could probably have a decent childhood and still have something later on in life that impacts you
Mhm.
in such a way that it's caused some harm or hurt. And so when I think about therapy, it's the overall general approach of what's happened to us that has
Mm.
shifted us off our foundation. And so by using language and words and frequency and such things like that, how do we get back on track with our
Mhm.
foundation?
100%. Well, I want to sing you accolades because you're not a regular therapist. I have had clients that tells me that one session with me, it's like 20 years of therapy. And I
Right.
love hearing that because I stand for transformation. And when somebody's transformed, so the image that comes to my mind is it's a rebirth, it's some kind of rebirth, some layer in their body, in their field is new. That new skin is vibrating newness, is vibrating light, and at the same time is vulnerable.
Right.
So you don't want to leave. When you have a breakthrough in whatever container, here's my tip to you, listeners. When you have a breakthrough, stay in that environment so the new skin thickens. You embody that newer level of you. You found a therapist that you love, stick with it. It's not to be there till Jesus come for 10, 20 years, but until you feel that your legs are not wobbly anymore. You found a coach that you love, a mentor that you love, a healer. I can actually speaking all the things I do, I stand for. Stay a little longer. The people that are with me for a year plus, they go into the world with a completely different sense of self. Do they need to be with me for a year? No, not at all. But when you transform, you go home and your spouse didn't transform, your kids didn't transform. So the itch is to go back to the familiar habit of language, of treatment, of defensiveness.
I think it goes one step further, Kenya. It's about acknowledging. I had a couple this week that was interesting because this is my first time with them, and they've had plenty of therapies in the past, and
Correct.
he's had it since he was 5 years of age. And I'm like, what's working, what's not working? And so we go through some of the therapy that we went through, and towards the end, I always try to ask, what is your takeaway from this? So that I know that they got what we were going with. So it's a feedback for me to understand where do we go? And it was interesting to hear him say, you made me uncomfortable, that I didn't know if I want to like you or not.
That's awesome.
Right.
Notice. Wow.
And he says, therapy has made me I've never felt uncomfortable, but I needed this to feel uncomfortable, to grow. And I want to come back and see you more because I like what I grew into today.
Correct.
So just because something seems to be uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that it's bringing you harm. Sometimes it's pushing us outside the box to be able to look at our language is going to be different, because as we mature, our language is going to be an emotional maturity level of language. Kenya, we got probably about 2 or 3 minutes to wrap up.
I want to say this. The word that comes to mind is witnessing, right? I work a lot with women and men, but mostly women. They seem to be magnetized to who I am. And there's a big difference between witnessing. You witness the pain, you witness where the person has been. And when that expression that clearly she felt safe, he felt safe, when that is over, then there are quality questions such as those that you just suggested that comes for, where are you at in moving forward? Right? Are you recycling the pain and telling the story over and over again? But that's fine with that. That's your at. I might not be the person for you because I have a radical stand for transformation. I want you to win. And if this has been working for you, is because it keeps you protected in the past, any growth will feel uncomfortable. It's a stretch.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that. When things feel stretchy, you know the difference between growing pains and a negative stretch, like pushing you outside of your essence. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel honored. That's different than growing pains. It's like, ooh, thank you for offering this perspective. I appreciate that. This is wonderful. So as we close this podcast on language and notice that your communication is everything that you are. It's how you breathe, it's how you dress, is how you stand tall or shoulders down. It's your communication is who you decide to be for yourself first and then into the world.
So be kind and speak loving words to yourself, because it's not about deserving. It's about loving who you are. And until next time, take care and God bless.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Coached Soul, where we aim to empower and uplift you on your journey towards personal growth and well-being. Remember, as you navigate through life, you don't have to do it alone. We encourage you to reach out to professionals, seek support from loved ones, and take the time to prioritize your own well-being. stay tuned for future episodes filled with even more valuable insights and actionable tips. Remember, you have the power to thrive. And with Coach It Soul by your side, anything is possible. Until next time, take care, stay empowered, and keep shining your brightest light.